Okay, we're back for Post-Media's panel on the Ottawa Senators. I'm Ken Warren with Don Brennan and Bruce Garriock. Guys, we've got through the first weekend of the schedule. Senators are 1-1-1. Kind of a mixed bag, I would think. What do we think of what we've seen so far? Strengths from this team, weaknesses? I mean, they've scored 11 goals, but they've given up 13. Don, what do you think so far?
Well, I'm pretty much expected, seen what I've expected so far. They blew a third period lead against Chicago. They caught the Leafs off guard on Saturday night. They're coming out with a lot of enthusiasm, but caught the Leafs off guard. Bad goaltending by Frederik Andersen. And they fell apart against the Bruins. I mean, they were mismatched on defensive pairings against the Bruins, and the big line scored a lot on them. So I'm not surprised by anything I've seen.
Well, I'm a little surprised that they were able to go in Toronto Saturday night and beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think that was probably such an emotional win for them. I don't think they started off very well yesterday in Boston. I think Don is right about the fact that one of the things they're going to struggle with this season is defensively, shutting down those big lines. I mean, Bergeron, Pasternak, and Marchand were just fantastic yesterday, and Ottawa had no answer to them. And if you look at the teams that they're going to face in the Eastern Conference and even in the West, those teams all have big lines, and the Senators are going to struggle with that. And they're going to have their own issues scoring goals. And if they don't get the saves, which they didn't yesterday in Boston, then they're going to struggle because they got the saves in the first two games. Craig Anderson played well. Mike Condon didn't play very well yesterday.
So that leads us to the next point here. Okay, the goaltending concerns, I don't think the goaltending was good enough. Even Anderson against Toronto maybe let in one or two that weren't great goals. But like Don said earlier, Frederik Andersen wasn't very good. Now, how much of this is on the goalies, and how much of it, as you said, Bruce, you got Cody Ceci and Mark Borowiecki who are being put in positions to try to be shutdown guys, whether at home together or on the road on different pairings. Are they good enough to be matchup guys?
Oh, I don't think they are. They're out of position. I mean, out of character. This is not a 1-2 pairing. It's a decent pairing in a third pairing sort of situation. But you're talking about the goaltending, and I thought that Craig Anderson in the opener gave up a real soft goal to Jonathan Toews. The first goal, I didn't like the first goal by DeBrincat either. And you know what? Craig Anderson had a decent enough game, or played well enough to win on Saturday.
Yeah, right.
But he's 37 years old. They're going to be having to rely on him a lot. I don't think their goaltending is anywhere near good enough, especially behind that defense.
Bruce, I mean, just like, I guess you go through it again, but I mean, is there a way to repair this defense?
Well, I think at some point they're probably going to go looking for a defenseman. I think they're probably going to have to find a top four defenseman who's going to be able to play some defensive minutes, some good defensive minutes for them. I think one of the things we've seen is that if Max Lajoie can step up and be better than some of the defensemen who have been around here for a long time, I don't know what that says about your team. Yeah, it's great to see a young guy step in and get the job done, but they absolutely need better play from Cody Ceci. If he's going to be relied on as much as he's going to be, then he has to play better defensively, and Thomas Chabot, while he had a breakthrough weekend offensively, has to be a better defensive player as well.
Well, that's okay. That leads us to the point. 2 goals against Toronto Saturday. He looked very good offensively in Boston, creating plays. But you've got him, and you've got Lajoie, and you've got some guys with some offensive talent on defense. There's got to be some reason for optimism there. And of course, is there reason for optimism with some of the young forwards as well? I mean, is this going to keep fans engaged?
Yeah, you like to start that Ryan Dzingel's is on. He's got, has he got 4 goals so far? Or I may be off.
The 2 goals against Boston.
2 goals against Boston. And again, Thomas Chabot had a good game. I expect this from Thomas Chabot, though. I always thought that, they might have pressed a little bit harder to keep Erik Karlsson around if they didn't have a Thomas Chabot waiting in the wings. They've got a lot of faith that Thomas Chabot can be the next Erik Karlsson. And he may not be a multiple Norris Trophy winner, but I think he's going to be a real high-end defenseman, real 60, 70-point guy. As he gets a little bit older, who knows? Could be as early as this year that he cracks the 50-point barrier. Up front, you're going to see a better Brady Tkachuk as we go along. You think he didn't stand out at all yesterday in his debut. And Alex Formenton, I wonder how long they're going to keep him. He's going to have to maybe make an impact of some sort to pass that 9-game barrier. I think that reasons for optimism that you can look down the road and you can see that there's some good young players. But right now, I don't know that it's going to be anything other than what we've expected.
Well, I think, Don, you make a good point on Thomas Chabot, because I think he's going to be he's a high-end, high-powered offensive player for this team, and I think that he's easily got the chance to get 50 points this year simply because he's going to play so much, and he's got the opportunity to play a lot of minutes. As far as Farmenton goes, I'd send him back now. I think, yes, they're going to get to that 9-game plateau, but I'm not sure at this point that he's accomplishing anything out there. And if you look at his training camp, he didn't stand out in training camp either. I think they're going to get him to that 9 games and then make a decision on him. But I see him as a guy who he'd probably be better off in junior, or keep him here till Christmas, send him to the World Juniors, and then bring him back and see if he can accomplish something at the World Juniors.
I think you send him back to junior. Let him play a lot more games. He's had some decent numbers in junior, but he hasn't played a lot of games if you look at the track record, just because of the repetition. Be a star at the World Junior. Maybe he's captain of that team. So give him that opportunity on the big stage. And Brady Tkachuk, too small of a sample size here to decide what to think of what he's done. 1 game, right?
But he had a good. Brady Tkachuk had a good preseason. You kind of feel like the more he gets into games and the more he plays, that he's probably going to have some success. He's a hard-nosed player who isn't afraid to do those tough things. I thought he was okay in Boston. No, he didn't do anything to stand out, but that's a tough rink to play in as well.
Sorry,
okay.
I just want to wait a second on Formanton too. I know you guys are a little bit, anxious to put him back in junior, but I don't know. In camp, he was one of the better players in camp. It is, like you said, Kenny, a small sample size. He didn't have a strong first 3 games. Let's see what he can do. There's no rush to send him back. Let's let him get to that 9-game barrier. Let's see what he does this week. They're playing a couple of home games. They're on a home stand now. Let's see what he can do with good matchups and with a bigger sample size.
So we're generally, we're good. This is what this season is going to be in a lot of ways. It's going to be kind of wait and see with a lot of these young guys, right? To see where we're going. I'm actually being entertained, I think, in the first 3 games, because you're not quite sure what to expect. There have been some reasons to be optimistic. I mean, I'd go all the way back to Max Lajoie in the home opener, and you talked about it, Bruce. I mean, he's been pretty good. I mean, who knew Max Lajoie before 2 weeks ago? Anyway, before we wrap up here, I think, we talk about all the goals going on in Ottawa. I mean, we've had an 8-5 game in the league. We've had 2 7-6 games. Toronto's letting in goals bucketfuls. I mean, are there surprises around the league so far, whether it's the goal scoring or something else, do you think, so far?
I was on a little mini vacation on the weekend, and I went to the Pittsburgh Penguins Montreal Canadiens game Saturday in Pittsburgh. And what did that end up? 5-1 for the Habs. That was a shock. I thought the Habs were going to be terrible this year. The Penguins, I expect them to be a contender again. I think there's been a lot of little surprises. The Vancouver, Carolina, it's and all the offense that we've seen so far. But again, it's early. I hope that the offense continues. It's making for entertainment, and even if it's coming because of the mistakes defensively, I'll take some offense any day.
Well, Don, hockey's about mistakes, right? And coaches probably hate the mistakes that are going on right now, but it's entertaining when you have a 7-6 game like they did in Chicago the other night with Toronto. I think that people enjoy that stuff. Sure, we'd love to see people keep scoring goals, but at some point, I think the coaches are going to batten down the hatches here.
Well, it's going to tighten up. The goaltending, I don't think, has been all that good around the league. But the one thing early on, I'm surprised there's been no honeymoon in Vegas here right now. They've not looked very good, and maybe we might just see them struggle to make the playoffs. For Bruce Skariok and Don Brennan, I'm Ken Warren. Thanks for tuning in to our Post Media Senators panel.